I'm really, really happy to be here today on the sunny south coast of the UK with our very special guest, Chris Spedding. And we're here to have a chat and celebrate the reissue of this beautiful record, Harmony Row, by my dad, Jack Bruce. And Chris, you were obviously one of the brilliant 3 musicians who contributed to this record.
I was lucky. I was able to do that, yes. More than 50 years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's quite a thing.
It is quite a thing. Over 5 decades ago, this wonderful album came out. A lot of people, including Jack, felt or feel that this was his
best one.
Best one, yeah. What do you think? Do you think it's his best one?
I have fond memories of doing Harmony Row, Songs for a Tailor.
Yeah, yeah.
Those were the 2 that I was involved with. So
yeah,
they're both amazing pieces of work.
And yeah, we're just super excited that Esoteric Records, part of Cherry Red, newly brought out this beautiful box set, which includes really special outtakes,
yeah.
demos. There's also live TV show on there and a documentary. And we thought it would be a lovely way to celebrate the release by driving down here and just having a chat.
Okay.
And it means a lot to see you and know that you're still active and playing and.
Right, I'm still around.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's brilliant. I think I'm going to start with reading out some questions that the fans have sent in.
Oh, okay.
The fans who, love this work. The first one is from Mark Powell, who actually runs Esoteric Records, who brought out the reissue. And Mark has identified that while listening to the multi-track tapes, on many of the songs on Harmony Row, the bulk of the music and Jack's master vocal were all recorded live at the same time. He's noticed that when isolating Jack's vocals that he can hear this, and he says that it's incredible how good the performances were. Do you have any recollections of that recording process, of all recording at the same time?
We did all the instruments at the same time. I think Jack was probably singing along, not into a mic, usually, just singing along so we all knew where we were. Maybe that was on mic and recorded and became the vocal.
Yeah.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah,
that's good to know. Well, Jack was really leading everything in the biggest sense of the word. Me and John Marshall, the drummer, we were the only other guys on there.
Yeah.
And so we relied on direction from Jack. And John Marshall said to me one day in the beginning of a work day, I wonder what Jack's got for us today, because some of it is quite challenging stuff. And I hope we do it all right. I hope we don't make too many mistakes. It's one of those sort of, but in a good way, like attention and hoping that you get it all right.
Yeah, of course.
And of course, once we started playing, it was so intense. Concentration. I don't know even if I could do such a thing today. We were in our 20s then, Recording, well, Jack came up in that with the Cream. They used to do that a lot. With Ginger and Jack and Eric. They were all fabulous musicians. And I just hope that it wasn't too much of a come down for Jack to work with me and John.
Oh, no, not at all.
After Eric and... actually, I had a theory that Jack invited me to play with him on Songs for a Tailor, and because I was probably one of the few guitar players in England, probably in the world, that didn't want to sound like Eric Clapton.
Yeah.
So after playing with the man himself, Jack didn't want to necessarily have another Eric Clapton clone. So, and I was kind of in a little bit of a niche as a guitar player, not into the Eric Clapton thing. So, it occurred to me quite recently that that's maybe why Jack liked playing with me for those 2 albums.
I've seen that mentioned before, and I think Jack really wanted to do something very, very different.
Yeah, he didn't want somebody playing Eric's riffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which everybody wanted to do at that time.
Of course.
All guitar players, yeah.
But it pays off to be unique.
It paid off for me. For a couple of albums there.
Amazing. So the next question is from Murillo Matias, and he says, Chris, what is your favourite song on Harmony Row, and what are your memories of touring with the group?
Oh, favourite song. You know, it's a long time since I even heard it.
Yeah. Have a
Can
look.
you give me the, that's the
Can I have a look at this one here?
Can you follow? Yeah.
People are motorbiking out the back.
Smiles and grins. Letter of thanks. Oh no, my favourite one is the Console at Sunset.
That's beautiful. Yeah. We were just listening to that in the car on the way down.
Because it's so evocative of all things South American.
Yeah. Beautiful. Lovely.
It's like a grey and green novel.
Now we've got a question from Howard Johnston. Harmony Row was Jack's own personal favourite album. It remains mine too. What do you feel about this particular album with its complex song structures and wide tapestry of sounds? Is it also your favourite Jack Bruce album? This was far from being a traditional rock album, and some of the tracks must have been very challenging to play. Any thoughts would be welcome.
Well, he's right. It was kind of challenging, but we sort of just got on with it. We thought, oh, we've got to do this now and make sure we get it right. And does Jack like it? Yes, he likes it. Okay, that's good. All those thoughts are running through your mind. You tend not to have favourites. I'd say I was very proud of doing it.
Yeah.
And Songs for a Tailor. All the work I did with Jack. It was, I don't know whether it was 2 years, not a great period of time. We did 2 albums and the touring. The touring was kind of a bit intense. We weren't always that well behaved. Well, I'd not really seen any rock and roll touring before. Okay. I was kind of a bit green, as it were, especially at Jack's level, because he was well known all over. Everybody knew who Jack was, and he was a big artist. So that was a baptism of fire for me. Well, everybody's different. Jack was different in his own way, and other people I've worked with, they're different in their way. And I guess when I leave my own band, I'm different, you know. Of course, you know, when you play with somebody like Jack, you learn a lot, especially since I just started in the business. I think people started booking me for sessions as a result of the work with Harmony Row and Songs for a Tailor.
Yeah, brilliant. My
name was just started to get around as a guy you could book to play guitar on your record. So I have that, always have that to thank Jack for.
Brilliant. Jeff Lynch says, Chris, I'm curious what direction Jack gave you as the sessions played out. Was it just another gig, or was there a sense of something working harder? In either case, exquisite magical music. I
would look for direction from Jack. I remember, like, he came in with it was for the other album, Theme from Imaginary Western on Songs for a Tailor. And I didn't know how people made records. I used to love listening to records. I was a big fan of the Beatles, of the band, and groups like that. I don't know whether I had any preconception of what Jack would be like to work with, but Jack Kate would come in and he'd give me a chord chart with some very, very rough, basic chords on it. He wouldn't say, play this like this or this like that. This would be the raw material I had to work with. Then he would go to the piano and he'd play a piano part that fit these chords. And then, I think it was John Heisman on the drums. He'd keep time for us. And I'd just weave in and out of what Jack was playing on the piano. There was no song, there was no vocal, there was no lyrics. It was just keeping time, playing the chords, and I'd hear him play a little sort of something, and I'd go, oh, I'll play something to go with that. And he'd be happy with that. And later on, when I was not in the studio, he'd put the bass on
Yeah.
and he'd do a vocal. And when the album came out, I'd think, what a wonderful song. If I'd have heard that song, I'd have maybe played this or played that. But Jack knew what he wanted from me. I assume he knew what he wanted from me because he liked it and we used it.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, maybe this is how people make records, which was not necessarily how Jack made records.
Yeah.
He wanted the tapestry, the weaving of the guitar and the piano, which seemed to him to be the most important thing at the beginning. And John Heisman playing the drums. I mean, he didn't have a clue what was going on with it. He was just keeping good time and playing very sensible, tasteful fills and stuff. And that's what Jack wanted, obviously.
Yeah.
And the finished result was amazing. But that's the way he made records. It's not what you expect. Jack being the bass player, he'd expect him to come in and play the bass with my guitar, not the piano. Anyway, there you go. That's the answer to that.
He did compose, I would say, the vast majority of music on piano.
On the piano, yeah.
So now we've got a question from Hugh Fallon. Chris, looking back, would you have liked to have had any future recording and gigging opportunities with Jack, presuming any disputes or disagreements?
Oh, after the period that I worked with him?
Yeah. Would you have liked to have had more?
That would have been nice, but I think we'd gone through our thing together. And I was grateful for that. Proud to have worked with him.
Yeah.
And great memories. I met Jack on a couple of occasions on the road.
Yeah.
We were staying in the same hotel, I think, in Japan once. And we had a little disagreement. Jack, you fired me. No, you left. No, you fired me. It was one of the, nobody could remember what happened.
Yeah. David Schiff says, Chris, you played wonderfully with Jack. I saw you in 1971 at Bumpers in London. Do you remember the inaugural concert at the Roundhouse in early 1969? The Battered Ornaments were terrific. I can remember them playing the Twisted Track and Sandcastles. Support was Michael Chapman, Edgar Broughton, the Third Ear Band, and Shirley and Dolly Collins.
I remember those days. All those artists were Black Hill Enterprises artists, I think, and so we were managed by them too.
Okay.
I don't think Jack was there, was he? Or maybe he'd come to hear us.
It's a good question. I did see
Maybe that's
some
why.
reference to a Roundhouse gig, but I don't know.
I think he played the Roundhouse with Mike Gibbs. He played with Mike Gibbs's orchestra, and I think we did that. So I played a lot at the Roundhouse with various. It was one of the big places that we ended up playing with all kinds of different bands like the Battered Ornaments with Pete Brown.
Yeah, shout out to Pete Brown for the beautiful lyrics.
Good old Pete.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a question from Ian Warburton. Chris, do you recall Jack falling off the boxing ring stage during a great gig at the Liverpool Stadium? This was during Jack's solo. Thank you, Jack, Chris and John, for that special evening.
Falling off the boxing ring
Stage during a solo.
His own solo?
Yeah.
I
His
don't.
own solo.
So there are some things that you edit out of your memory. I don't remember. That would have been awful. I do remember Jack getting very frustrated with something, maybe the sound quality on the stage, and charging at his big. We had big Marshall stacks in those days.
Yeah.
That was the age of Marshall stacks. Getting his bass like a spear, charging at the Marshall stack, trying to push it over. And Bob Adcock, who should be in this story, was his driver and his roadie, was behind the stack trying to stop it from falling, which made Jack even angrier because he wanted it to go over. That's the only story like that I can remember.
That's a good one.
I can't even remember how it ended, but the image of Bob Adcock behind, Jack couldn't figure out why the thing wasn't falling over.
And why did he want it to tip over? He was just angry
because he was
with the
angry
sound.
with the sound.
Okay.
Yeah, he was having a bit of a
moment.
A bit of a conniption. Yeah.
Okay. We have one more question from Richard Meyers. Chris, I really liked your work with Jack, especially on Songs for a Tailor. Very interesting, clean lines, great chordal work with just a hint of overdrive, not at all in the vein of most rock guitarists of 1969. As a guitarist, I always wondered what guitar and amp you used on that record.
I believe that was the period where I was playing a Fender Telecaster and some kind of arrangement of Fender amplifiers. I ended up with what I think is the best of the Fender amplifiers, the Fender Deluxe Reverb. I don't think I'd got one by that time. It might have been some top, the top amplifier part that plugs into a speaker. I think I had some arrangement like that. I remember Andy Johns, the engineer, saying, "I see you've got a decent amplifier today," because he'd worked with me before with the battered ornaments when I didn't have. It was the same studio and the same engineer that we worked with. Pete Brown had the battered ornaments. I think Pete must have liked the sound of that. He visited us in the studio once, I think, and booked same Morgan Studios in Willesden, the same studio for his Songs for a Tailor. Not Harmony Row though. Harmony Row was Command Studios in Piccadilly.
Okay. And do you remember what guitar you used for Harmony Row?
I think I was onto the Fender Stratocaster and I'd got myself a Les Paul, the black Les Paul, the Black Beauty as I call it. I think I still had the Telecaster, but I think more Fender Stratocaster.
Okay.
And by that time I think I got the Fender Deluxe Reverb amp. But we never used any pedals, any fuzz boxes, or they didn't have chorus pedals in those days. I think they just had wah-wahs, which was considered very uncool to play the wah-wah. I don't think there's a single Beatle record with the wah-wah on it, even though they were available during the time of the Beatles recording. Only Jimi Hendrix was allowed to play the wah-wah.
I've loved listening to all your stories. I also collected some messages from some fans online that were left on your birthday when we did a post on your birthday on Jack's page, and I just thought it would be nice to share them because just this record and you're playing on it has meant so much to so many people, and I thought it would be lovely to hear what they have to say. Doug Percival, I thought Chris Spedding's guitar work on Harmony Row was brilliant and unique, quite unlike what other British rock guitarists were doing at the time. In fact, quite unlike anything I've heard before or since. It's lovely.
Very nice.
Paul Dennis, I've always loved Chris's guitar work, the master of economy, never a note wasted. Tom Booth, Chris's guitar work on Roy Harper's When an Old Cricketer Leaves the Crease LP still gives me a thrill.
Very nice, thank you.
Charles Boyle, Chris, I saw you playing with the Mike Gibbs Orchestra in Patrick Berg Halls in the 1970s. I still remember your wonderful playing, your leather biker jacket and your quiff. Happy memories indeed. Thanks for all the great music with Jack. Gary Irwin says, Chris, I have been a fan of your work since Harmony Row hit the shelves. Thank you for being the consummate, tasteful guitarist.
Thank you very much.
Stuart Ragland, Chris, I have been a fan for 50 years already. Even copped some licks from Guitar Jamboree. Your version of Crying Game is the definitive version, in my humble opinion.
Oh.
And we have a final comment from Ed Supernavage. To this day, I cannot listen to the music of Harmony Row without a tear in my eye. Many years ago, a fellow musician of mine described the musical spirit of that album as majestic. The perfect description. Thank you, Jack, Chris, and John for such wonderful music.
Wow, thank you very much. That's very nice.
It's been really, really wonderful sharing this time with you. Thank you so much, Chris. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming down.
And we're going to be playing and singing a song together. Folk song, which is going to be exciting. So yeah, stay tuned for that.
Yes,
Thank you again.
Look forward to that.